Hey, welcome back to Heart Key Creations. I am Heather, and today I'm going to show you how I did my owl painting over the poured acrylic background. So here I'm just using dark blue, light blue, white, black, and a metallic pinky color for the pouring itself. These were just paints that I already had poured or mixed up for previous pourings, and I just wanted to use them up. So I didn't have a whole lot of that pink left, which was kind of sad because it doesn't really show up in the painting at all. Kind of got overrun, but it's all right. It still looks great. The only thing that I have in these paints is the Liquitex pouring medium and Liquitex paint. It's mostly medium with a few drops of the paint in there to color it. And there's no silicone, no alcohol, no glue, no gack, no whatever. It's just pouring medium and paint. I do get a few cells in here, but they don't stay at all because of the way that I move things around, and what my painting is actually sitting on are just empty bottles of paint and medium. So they're not level, but I like it that way. I like it to continue to move after it's sitting. They're just barely uneven, so it moves the teeniest bit ever so slowly, and it just gives this nice swirls, and it looks like movement. I'm just going over and covering up the sides now, taking the paint that had fallen onto the plastic underneath and bringing it back up to the sides using a popsicle stick. Hey, it's summertime. They're basically free right now. So here you can see that I have the outline of my owl already on the canvas. Just did it in chalk. I like to do this just so that I can just get to painting. The reference photo that I used, and yes, I did use a reference photo for a change, was from Lisa Clow. She puts out 10 reference photos for her Patreon, or for her patrons on her Patreon page every month. So I cannot show you the original reference, but it exists, I promise. I didn't pay much attention to it throughout most of this. The color's completely different. Obviously the background is different. But reference photos are just for reference, right? I don't know why this looks like it's half cut off on the top there. But I'm just working on the eye right now. And again, you know, I'm painting on the poured surface, so it's like painting on plastic. So the layers are either really, really thick or very, very thin. For the most part, they're very, very thin and many. There are a couple of spots where I did them relatively thick. I knew what I wanted to lay down. I knew what it was. I knew what color it was going to be. And I just wanted to get it in there, like the beak itself. So right now I'm using white, but all of the white that's on there gets painted over in either a brownish color or a bluish gray of different tones. I made sure that nothing was pure white. On the blue background, nothing's going to reflect white. It's going to reflect a very, very light blue. So all of my white has some sort of blue in it in the end. All of my blacks have some sort of blue in it in the end. There, I made a mistake. I went over it with some water and wiped it off. Acrylics are great. For most of everything that I do, I use a number 6 Simply Simmons bright brush. I love it. I think it does everything I need it to do. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's great. But you'll see that for some of the larger areas, like on the chest, I actually do switch out my brush and use a larger brush because, well, it would have taken me a year to paint the body with such a tiny brush. So I went in and I added some highlights to the eye there. And yes, I used my finger again. I'm probably going to have to get out of that habit because I did just buy a set of oils. So even though right now these are acrylics and I'm not sticking my finger in my mouth afterwards with oils, I shouldn't be in that habit. Now, in the super sped up version, you can hardly see, like, everything looks very effortless and quick, but I have to tell you that it really was kind of effortless and quick. You're not painting in each individual feather and making it look exactly like it does in the picture or, on the bird. You are going in and you're getting the general look of the feather and the direction of the feather. Which way is it pointing? Where is it going? Because if the direction is off, then the whole picture is off. It's like waking up with bedhead to the nth degree. And, well, the owl just doesn't do that. Although I have to tell you, he was a big fluffy-headed owl, and I did just want to cuddle with him, but he's an owl, so he probably wouldn't like that very much. So, like I said earlier, for a lot of this, I didn't pay much attention to my reference photo, and I realized later on that that whole side that I darkened in there with feathers, with the dark feathers, is pretty much wrong. I do go back and fix it, but, it's important to look at your reference photo every now and again. And you can see there, I'm actually using the bigger brush because I was doing the much larger area. Just going in and adding some mid-tones, paying attention to the direction of my strokes. Even though most of that is going to be covered and you're not really going to see those strokes, I like to pay attention right from the very beginning. It just gives me a better feel for what I'm doing, and it gives me a better outcome. Going in and adding those highlights in there. And again, I'm just paying attention to the direction I'm doing them in little clumps and clusters, not individual feathers. That number 6 bright just is the perfect size for doing feathers and fur, most furs in my opinion, and feathers too. I mean, the feathers on the wing are not as fluffy, they're much longer, but it's just, the number 6 just gives me a nice lines. They just give me nice lines. And you can see here, this is where I looked at my reference photo and said, huh, that's not right. So I fixed it. But the dark underneath works out well for me because it just helps to add in those shadows. Going in and adding more shadows in clumps and clusters. Bringing out some shadows in the feather. In the wing, I mean. The feathers in the wing. Working on the beak and the highlights on the beak. You'll see me in a second. I do a lot of playing with colors on his face. He's got these very, very fluffy hair-like feathers on his face that just kind of stand out everywhere. And what I was finding is that the color that I had in his face just wasn't dark enough to contrast enough to bring those feathers out and make them wonderful to see. So I changed that up a lot. And remember those oil paints that I talked about getting earlier? Well, in between takes here, because I had a lot of problems with my battery dying, because I only have one battery, I did order more, but they didn't come in time for this project to be finished. They actually didn't come until basically the end of the cheetah project that I do next. But in the meantime, in between takes, I was playing with my oil colors. And out of habit, I dipped my oil brush into my water to clean it off instead of into the paint thinner container. So even though I cleaned out the bucket and changed the water, when I went to clean off the brush towards the end of this project, I kept picking up oil paint residue. So I had to grab the rag that I had used for the oil painting and keep cleaning the brush off after I cleaned the brush off. And again, none of those colors are actually white. They are white with blue or gray with blue. Nothing is straight white or nothing is straight black. I darkened up his face up there because, like I said, it didn't contrast enough. The fluffy feathers on his face did not look fluffy enough over top of the lighter feathers underneath. And then I go down and I bring that darker color into the rest of his fur so that it matches. It doesn't look totally out of place. And here's where I'm adding in those very fluffy feathers. Those arm reaches in front of you are where I'm going in and saying, oh, I need the oil rag. But this is about it, guys. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, find me on Patreon. And I'll see you next time. Bye!